Yeah.
Hello, everyone. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Scott, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Which is the call? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
United
States
States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, a nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and roll call, please.
Director Pacala is absent. Director McMillan? Here. Director Robert?
Yes.
Director Quady?
Here.
Director Avila? Yes.
Here. Thank you. We have a quorum, and moving on to public comments. Do we have members of the public?
We do have a member of the public online.
Okay, Section 2, this portion of the agenda may be utilized by any member of the public to address the Board of Directors on any matter within the jurisdiction of the board that does not appear on the agenda and on matters that are on the agenda but are not designated as action items. Depending on the subject matter, the Board of Directors may be unable to respond at this time or until a specific topic is placed on the agenda at a future Calleguas board meeting. In accordance with the Ralph M. Brown Act, please limit remarks to 3 minutes. Do we have?
Yeah, if any member of the public would like to comment at this time, please use the raise hand feature. There are no raised hands.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to presentations, introduction of new senior control technician, Mark Bellinger.
Yes, our manager of operations and maintenance, Omar Castro, will be introducing our newest employee.
Hello, members of the board. This is Mark Bellinger. He's our new senior control technician. Mark came to us from the city of Oxnard, where he was an electrician. Mark is also a certified electrician through IBEW, and he is a former CB. How long were you in CBs?
About 8 years.
8 years. We're fortunate to have Mark on board and a position we really needed. So welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the team, and thank you for your service from also Navy. So, likewise. Thank you. Okay, moving on to presentation of Association of Water Agencies Ventura County Special Recognition Award.
Yes,
Tricia.
our manager of HR and risk management, Tricia Ferguson, will be handling this fragile award.
Fragile, this is solid acrylic up here.
Okay.
All
So over the past several years and with the implementation of our strategic plan, Calleguas has really prioritized and emphasized our regional partnerships and collaboration with our purveyors. And the importance of this work was really highlighted during the mountain fire when a couple of our purveyors were directly impacted by the fire. During this unfortunate event, Daniel Cohen, our emergency response coordinator, played a pivotal role in the coordination of support efforts, serving as our point person with first responders, Office of Emergency Services, and with our purveyors directly. He's cultivated relationships with these agencies across the county as well as our purveyors. And Daniel was recently recognized by the Association of Water Agencies of Ventura County, their disaster response committee, for his professional response during the fires. His quick action and dedication made a significant difference in assisting the community. And we are lucky to have him heading our emergency response in these situations. And I just wanted to share that recognition with you.
Thank you.
And my understanding is this isn't like a rarely scheduled award. This was like a special award that was developed just to recognize the great work that Daniel did under those challenging circumstances.
Congratulations, Daniel. You do some great work. We've all seen it, and let's do a picture. Let's do a board picture. I like board pictures with
Yes. You are wearing Calleguas blue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
More efficient stuff.
Okay, moving on to item 4, items to be added to the agenda. Do we have any items? No items. Consent calendar. Has the board had time to review the consent calendar? And would anybody like to pull anything out? No, I don't have anything. Okay, looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second. Give it first and a second. Please.
Director Pacala is absent. Director McMillan.
Yes.
Director Robert.
Yes.
Director Quady. Director Avila.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to action items. Designate a board member to vote on behalf of Calleguas for Association of Water Agencies. I screwed that all up. Aqua officer to the Region 8 board and authorize general manager to sign and submit the authorized voting representative form.
Yes, so the way the Aqua voting works for overall Aqua officers as well as the Region 8 board is that the board decides who will vote on their behalf, and I submit a form designating that person. The voting process will take place electronically. So that's about it. It's pretty straightforward.
Scott?
So anybody can do that. Anybody on the board can do that. And I would only amend this motion with that the person who does it be scheduled for that meeting prior to, I think it was July 21st is when the closes. Somehow in June or something is when the election ballot is available.
Okay.
And so I would just like whoever does that to come back when we do step through the ballot and reach a consensus on the votes.
Can it be you?
Are you interested?
I would do it, but I did last time, so.
Yeah.
It's usually you and you're good at it. You're very active at Aqua, so it makes sense.
Yep.
Like I said, anybody can do it.
I would nominate Director Quady.
Okay, second.
Second, third.
Okay,
Okay, who was second?
first, second.
Okay. Okay, Director Pacala is absent. Director McMillan.
Yes.
Director Robert.
Yes.
Director Quady.
Aye.
Director Avila.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Item 7, reports, general manager and staff reports. February 2025 water use and sales, power generation and investment summary. Sue.
It's actually going to be Dan Smith joining us remotely today.
Hello, Dan.
Hello, directors.
He sounds the same.
Yep, I'm still here. I'm assuming you can see the presentation.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So looking at the water sales for February, we were under what we had budgeted. We only sold 3,764 acre feet. We had budgeted a little over 4,000 at 4,290, but that still leaves us well above where we are for the fiscal year. So far year to date, we've sold 52,000 acre feet, and we expected to be closer to the 48,000 acre feet. Looking at where we're looking at for the last 12 months, you can see that we've been doing really good for this fiscal year until we came to February. We were only 500 acre feet short, but still it's the first month we've been short all year. But you can see in the previous months, in the last 12 months, we were short all of last spring, all the way up through summer. To kind of go through the metropolitan reconciliation, the total water sales was $5.2 million. We did add quite a bit of water back into Lake Bard as we had used it for our outage and then replenished it with metropolitan water. We get to a little reconciliation adjustment to get to the total water purchase for metropolitan. We add in our normal CRC and RTS. We did get some LRP funds for Camarillo's desalter, and that brings us to the $7.5 million, which is the February 2025 Met bill. Kind of looking at the SMP discharge, we only had 33 acre feet of discharge for the month of February. It is usually slower in the winter months as they don't need as much water, so they don't do the desalters. But right now, Camarosa's desalter's been offline for about 4 months now, and so it is affecting our discharge amounts, which is putting us behind budget. So for the whole fiscal year, we're at 436, and we thought we'd be closer to 586. So we are falling behind again, and I'm going to be budgeting a little bit less for the next fiscal year to accommodate for some of that. Looking at power generation, January is also a month where we don't always see a lot of sales, but this month we actually saw negative because we did have fees again associated with Springville Hydro, where we didn't generate enough electricity, so we get a penalty charged, and that offsets our revenues. East Portal this month was offline for maintenance, so that did affect the overall revenues, but that is also typical for this time of year. This is when we take down the hydros just to do the maintenance on them. But overall for the year, we're still looking good. We're at $397,000 and we budgeted to be $395,000. So we're right where we expect to be overall through January.
And I'm working on the Springville issue. I actually had a call with Edison this afternoon that I haven't even been able to brief Dan on yet. So we're trying to get that resolved so we can find ourselves in a situation where we're not paying any penalties.
Yeah, I would like that.
I know, I would too.
So looking at our overall revenues, you can see we brought in $7 million for water sales, bringing our year-to-date total to almost $92 million. That puts us at 69% of our budget, and we typically be about 65. So you can see that it is reflecting the fact that we are about 3,000 acre feet above what we thought we'd be at this point. Recycled water sales continue to be higher than expected, which is good for this time. We're at 91%. We just typically about 75. SMP continues to be lagging a little bit because of Camarosa being offline. And power generation is pretty much right where it's supposed to be, 66%, even though we didn't make any money this month. This was the shocking one. Yeah, we actually spent $11.3 million went out the door in this month. But of course, that did happen because we paid the $12.5 million to Met for that prepaid water. Take that out, and we actually brought in, $1.2 million in cash during the month of February, which is what we'd expect during this time. We start getting a little bit extra cash at this time. So overall, the cash was good. We made a purchase that we knew about, so it kind of negates what this is showing us. And that's all I have, unless there's some additional questions.
Thank you, Dan. Do we have questions from the board for Dan?
I just have one. Dan, we're going to hear from Chandler, what, next month?
We are not going to hear next month. It's going to be 3 months after that because I tried to get them for April, but they were booked for that day, or she's out of town, I think. So I have her lined up for July.
Oh, okay. I'm particularly interested in the federal agency bonds as a question.
Okay. If you have a question, you can always email it to me and I can send it off to them to get you an answer.
Okay. Do you want me to still email you?
Sure.
Any other questions from the board for Dan? Okay, thank you, Dan. Thank you for the great report. Item 2, imported water supply conditions report. Jennifer?
Our manager of water resources, Jennifer Lancaster, will provide an update on the water supply conditions, which is thankfully pretty good news.
Good.
Yeah, it's good to be in this position on years like this. Okay, let's get this going. Okay. So starting off with the drought monitor, what we're seeing here is actually a bit of an increase over what I presented last month, especially in that red color, the extreme drought. But as I always caveat this doesn't reflect our water supply. It really is more of a reflection of what we expect demands to be. And, as we've been seeing, the southern part of the state is trending dry this year, whereas the northern part of the state is doing very well in terms of precipitation. So as of March 17th, we are sitting statewide at right about average for precipitation. So we're now up to 104%. And looking at the state map there, I've been showing you how very, very different that map has been looking from the northern part to the southern part of the state. Given those storms that have come through in February and March, we are evening out just a bit. We still remain below average for the most part in the southern part, but we got a little boost from those storms, which was quite welcome. Our major reservoirs, water supply reservoirs throughout the state continue to be very, very healthy, sitting at 115% of average levels. And our statewide snowpack actually made some really nice gains, again, in the storms that we saw in February and March. December, January being quite dry. We are now getting up closer to average, and we're sitting at 93% statewide. Although, most of that is in the northern part, and as you come down through the Sierra, it's kind of dropping below average, and I'll show you a little bit more in a future slide. So here, looking at the 8-station index, this is the precipitation measured across 8 different locations within the watershed that feeds the State Water Project. And we are doing very well in that location this year. We are, you see, trending above average and trending above what we were doing last year. Still a little bit below that drought buster year of 2022-23, but very healthy nonetheless at 119%. So this is what I had mentioned a minute ago, the difference in the snow water equivalent. So that's basically just the amount of water that the snowpack holds. And the Northern Sierra is at 110%, Central 87%, and Southern at 89% of average for this time. Now, this is actually looking a lot better than what I presented last month, although we were at even higher above average for the northern. We were looking at Southern Sierra sitting at about 48% last month. So again, these storms that we've had recently have really helped the Southern and Central Sierra catch up on its snowpack. So I wanted to drill down into the Calleguas watershed and see what's been going on here in our service area. And as you can see, it's been pretty dry. We did get some precipitation, but it started out extremely dry. So we are currently sitting at about 51%. And this is not much of a surprise given how Dan's been updating us, maybe not in February, but in the couple of months prior to that, we've been hitting our sales exceeding what we had budgeted. And that really just reflects that we had a pretty warm and dry start to the year. Most of that 51% we made up over the last 4 to 6 weeks. And so that we probably will continue to see increased demands a little bit higher than normal as we are getting into the drier part of the year. But the good news being that there's plenty of water supply to meet any of those demands. So looking at the precipitation outlook for the next 6 to 10 days, this covers the period of March 25th to 29th. And the prediction here for our area is that we're going to be right around normal. There's nothing particularly substantial on the horizon here, maybe a little bit of trending above normal for some storms that might hit the northern part of the state, but not too much really expected down in this area. And the monthly precipitation outlook, the most updated data is for March. We're already halfway through the month, so that looks very much like what I just showed. But if we look at seasonal, looking out from March through May, we're looking at probably trending a little bit on the dry side in the southeastern part of the state. But again, this is not a time of year, that time period where we get substantial precipitation normally anyway. We're kind of coming to the end of the season. We consider the peak snowpack to be April 1st. And then after that, the snowpack begins to melt. So we're kind of coming to the end of those storms. So the key takeaways, Northern California precipitation is still above average, but Central and Southern California have made some gains over what we were seeing last month during the water supply update. We stay very healthy with our reservoir storage. And in fact, at Oroville, they're sitting at about 124% of average. And in recent days, DWR has increased the flood control releases from Lake Oroville up to 15,000 CFS. The inflows are around 20,000 CFS. And really, this is because that reservoir is not just water supply. From October to June, it's managed for flood control as well. And there is a federally mandated level of space that must be maintained in that reservoir to capture any future precipitation, as well as the snow melt that's going to start happening out of the watershed. And so that is why DWR is doing these releases at this time to kind of modulate the water flows downstream and minimize risks of flooding should we get a big pulse of water coming through. They are sending that water through the Hyatt power plant to generate electricity, as well as the main spillway at Oroville. And given all of the healthy storage that we have on the State Water Project, the Table A allocation was increased to 35% on February 25th, February 25th, and that's up from 20% where it was sitting in January. And we expect even more increases to that allocation because the storage continues to track above what DWR had projected when it was setting its allocations and forecasts back in February. Now that we're at 35%, Metropolitan is estimating that it is going to be in a small surplus of about 17,000 acre feet, which will only continue to grow if we go up in the State Water Project allocation. And so Met is now moving into surplus management. They're looking at various activities such as the cyclic program, activating that. They have transfers and exchanges, storage, carryover that they can leave in San Luis. And so that is a lot of discussion going on at Met right now, is how they're utilizing some of those surplus management programs. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Oh, great update. Thank you. It's sounds like lots of potential for additional storage and questions from the board.
35% is a whole lot better than 5.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Met
30%
estimates now that when they get a 30, with demands being what they are now, with a 30% allocation, they're balanced, and anything over that provides a level of surplus.
Sounds great. Okay. Thank you very much. Next up is Charlotte Holyfield, report on Aqua Washington Conference 25 through 27, Manager of External Affairs.
Yes, Charlotte's going to provide a little bit of an overview of the Aqua DC conference that was attended last month. And just a heads up to the board members who were there, you will have an opportunity at the end of the presentation to share your own experiences and thoughts on the conference.
I look forward to hearing what happened at DC.
Days at DC. All right. Thank you, Christine and President Avila, for that introduction. Good evening, directors. 3 of the 4 of you were in DC. And so this might be to entirely your benefit, Director McMillan. We look forward to telling you what happened in DC. So this is the second time that Calleguas has attended in recent history. It's the first time for directors and our general manager. And our participants were President Avila, Vice President Quady, Director Robert, our general manager, and myself. And the conference purpose is a few things. There were some expert panels on federal issues. Yes, President Avila is smiling in that photo.
The irony of it.
Avila's.
Avila's, exactly. Yes, I'll explain that the Avila on the right, Ernie Avila, is the incoming president of Aqua. So had to get the shot. So the panels on the federal issues included things like the 119th Congress preview, federal regulatory changes, cybersecurity, wildfire impacts on water agencies. The congressional speech program was where we got to hear directly from members and staff. I'll go into that a little bit more later. We met as a Calleguas unit with several offices of our legislators and, of course, just general networking at the conference. There were around 75 agencies that participated, including Las Virgenes, Triunfo, United, Metropolitan, and many others from across the state of California. And really one of the highlights in my mind was this congressional speech program where for about 3 hours, the participants go into a building in the Capitol Visitor Center, and then sort of a string of members of Congress and staff come through. So these are the 5 members who came: Congressman Ken Calvert from Riverside County, Congressman Costa from Fresno, Congressman Laura Friedman from LA County, Congressman Doug Malfa from Butte, and U.S. Senator Alex Padilla. I think, were selected because they have some pretty extensive experience and are interested in water policy. And then a couple of congressional staffers spoke to us as well. So going into the meetings that Calleguas held as sort of a unit, I'll go over them one by one. We met with Congresswoman Julia Brownlee, and we talked with her about a number of things. And the first was the Lake Bard pump station earmark that she secured for us in the federal budget, which unfortunately met its demise last week, along with every other earmark that was designated in the federal budget. But we're going to try again. We also talked about our Bureau of Reclamation grant that we were granted in January, the $7.5 million for the SMP Phase 3. These representatives were concerned because of all of the clawbacks going on for federal monies. They wanted to know if we had experienced any sort of interruption in the commitment of that Bureau money. And I'm happy to report that we have not, and I'll go into that a little bit more. We also talked to her about the mutual aid during the Eaton fire that we provided, the federal budget, federal grant programs, and what the future of earmarks might be in the federal budget. Adjacent to our service area is Congressman Salud Carbajal's district. He represents Santa Barbara Slow, Ventura, Ojai, and Oakview. But we are connected via the Future Ventura Interconnection. And he helped secure funding for the city of Ventura's portion of interconnection through an earmark he did for them a couple of years ago. So we had a really nice meeting with him where we discussed the importance of interconnections. And notably, he is one of the authors of the Aerial Firefighting Enhancement Act, which would expedite the procurement of military aircraft for firefighting. So we are going to be happy to support that as it makes its way through Congress. We also had a group meeting with Senator Adam Schiff. As a refresher, he was elected last November. He fills what was Senator Feinstein's seat. When she passed away, Senator Butler was appointed for about a year. So he's really coming into a seat of someone who was a lion of California water, quite frankly. And he represented Altadena in the House of Representatives, and he held a private meeting for the conference attendees. So you can see in the second picture down, the number of folks who were there. We were right there in the front row, got to ask some questions. And he was very honest about his water policy, sort of inexperience, not for lack of interest, but he said, tell me what I need to know about water. And he really took the audience input, had some good dialogue, Q&A. And then we had a follow-up meeting as a group with one of his water policy leads, Josh Franco, in his office. And that was also a really productive meeting. And then we also met with U.S. Senator Alex Padilla's water policy legislative aide, Sydney Dayat. We provided her a Calleguas overview, discussed the risk, Bureau of Reclamation grant, as we did for Senator Schiff's staffer as well. And as a follow-up, we were added to their email distribution list for notification of when earmark funding applications are available. We have since received that notification, and I did hear from Josh at Senator Schiff's office today saying that their, application process is also open. So I notified both of them that we will be submitting a project for their consideration for earmarks. Overall takeaways from the conference for me was uncertainty in Washington is due to this new administration. It is quite rampant, but on the good news side, water is a nonpartisan issue. As so many issues are very partisan right now, water does not appear to be one of them. The Los Angeles County fires are going to impact policy and funding. They already have. And as I mentioned earlier, policymakers want to know how federal agency cuts are impacting their constituents. So with that Bureau of Reclamation grant, I think it was 2 days after we returned, Christine, if I'm not mistaken, we did get notification from the Bureau of Rec, from the grant manager, that the funding will be moving forward. So we're very pleased about that. In terms of next steps, did all the thank yous. Thank you, President Avila, for signing all those letters. We did some follow-up for those offices. we're going to review federal legislation for potential advocacy and come back to the board with some information on that in the near future. And in the next week or 10 days, Kat and I will be working on submitting our congressional funding requests. The Senate requests are due at the end of March. The House of Representatives deadline is to be determined. But I did hear from Sharon Wagner, the legislative director we met with at Congresswoman Brownlee's office 2 days ago. She asked if we wanted to resubmit the Lake Bard pump station for consideration for the next fiscal year or a different project. And I told her we would like to resubmit the same project, and the Congresswoman will be putting that on her priority list once again. And with that, love to turn it over to the directors for any comments you might have, followed by our general manager, if you like.
Thank you, Charlotte,
Welcome.
for the great update.
Of course.
Would you like to start? Any comments?
Oh, I'll just say, thank you. I understand how difficult, well, I don't really know all the ins and outs of how difficult it was for you, but it really was impressive as to how you were able to pull those things off. Some things weren't even known until the last minute, right? So
This last minute.
appreciate all the hard work.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Anything from you, Thibault?
I was going to start with a very similar sentiment, but probably said not as eloquently as Director Quady, but similarly, really appreciate the organization and the planning and the forethought. I know it's not, we see the very tip of the spear, but also overall the event, meeting those people and discussing and understanding. I thought the what was it called? Congressional speech program was incredibly beneficial for me. It was like almost speed dating with Congress people. Exactly what they wanted, what their concerns were.
And what happens in DC stays in DC.
We sat in the front, I was able to ask a lot of questions, and so I had tremendous benefit from the whole thing, but I appreciate everyone's work putting it together.
Yeah, absolutely. It was extremely valuable. I think the forming those relationships and maintaining them and really just getting to sit down with these people and having them hear us out is very beneficial. And all the work that your team put into this is pretty impressive. You guys organized it very well. It's very well planned. So thank you.
And I would just add, it not only was it well planned, it was also very, very adaptable because as Director Quady alluded, Charlotte was very proactive in reaching out to try to schedule meetings, but we often found out the day before or the day of that we were actually going to get those meetings. So
Right.
There was a lot of flexibility, adaptability, and just improvisation to make it all work. And it came together beautifully. I think it was a very educational and productive week.
Great.
That we
It's
spent there.
very typical. And so, I know the challenges.
Yes.
I've gone many times. So kudos to you.
Great. Thank you.
I look forward to next year.
Agreed.
And thank you for the recap, because I think the recap shows to me what some of the deliverables were that
Okay, good.
you actually walked away with.
Exactly.
So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you, Charlotte.
You're welcome.
Okay,
I'm staying
moving on to state legislative update.
Yes.
You're back on.
I'm here. Okay. So on pages 84 and 85 of your board packet, directors, is the state legislative matrix of some of the top priority bills that we are tracking in the state legislature. It is not an exhaustive list, but for one reason or another, these have risen to the top. I'm going to go into 3 of them that I would like to give you some more context and updates on, and then I'm happy to answer any questions. So the first one is Assembly Bill 367. Sure you're all familiar with this one by now. It is by Assemblymember Bennett and requires Ventura County water suppliers to have backup power supply during a wildfire event, among other provisions. So in the last board packet was included a letter signed by our general manager with a lot of input from our purveyors with concerns about this bill, about a 3.5-page letter that we sent to Assemblymember Bennett. He read it and complete detail. And last week we had a virtual meeting with him and several of our purveyors to review that letter. And he went point by point, and we thought it was a productive meeting. We think there's some areas that we can agree upon. He was open to many of the suggestions that we made. So this is an ongoing conversation. We are awaiting the amended version of the bill. Probably next week, I would estimate. I got a little note from his legislative director yesterday saying that they're working on it, and I think we'll see something next week. And we'll continue to keep our purveyors informed, as this is one that could have significant impacts on them. So more to come on that. The next one I want to discuss is Assemblymember 523 by Assemblymember Irwin. This is the bill that would allow metropolitan member agencies with single representatives to appoint an alternate board member if that primary representative will be absent from Met. There are some amendments in the works that I want to share with you. There's nothing in writing yet, but right now the bill provides that the metropolitan representative who's going to be absent appoints an alternate who can be anyone of that person's choosing. And the suggestion and the amendments that are in development are a proxy vote instead, whereby the metropolitan representative would have to pick one of the metropolitan directors to stand in for them on a particular vote. So I don't know when we'll see that amended language. I think probably pretty soon. So also on that bill, Eastern, as the sponsor, has requested a support letter from us for the bill. And as noted in the matrix, the bill could be of benefit to us by allowing for representation at metropolitan board meetings if Director McMillan were unable to attend. And that way we would not lose out on participating in a vote. So for this possible benefit to Calleguas, we plan as staff to bring this bill back to your board on April 2nd with a recommended position of support and to send that letter. So just wanted to lay the groundwork, see if you had any questions. Sorry, I should have asked you if you had questions on the Bennett bill. But I have one more and then maybe we can go to questions. So Senate Bill 394 by Senator Allen has to do with increasing penalties for theft from fire hydrants. It is sponsored by Aqua and Las Virgenes. Today it passed the Senate Local Government Committee 7-0. And Las Virgenes General Manager Dave Peterson went up to testify in person. The next stop for this bill is the Senate Judiciary Committee on April 2nd, and we are in support of this measure. So those are the bills I wanted to point out for you, and happy to discuss those or any others on the matrix you like.
Yeah, my question is going to be for Director McMillan on 523. What do you think about the proxy vote versus the alternate?
It was my understanding that it wouldn't be a board member from here, but it would be like Burbank.
I'm sorry if I misspoke. I did mean you would select someone from the Metropolitan Board to stand in for you. Yes, correct.
The option of letting you guys in.
Right. So with the way it currently is before the amendment, it would be an alternate from our board, but they want to switch it to a proxy.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, is there a pro con versus the other? Because I think having the alternate gives us into building for experience.
Right, and they don't have to, and I think they're removing the sunset provision on it. And some of the board members said, well, how can I be sure that if I proxy, like give it to Las Virgenes, that they're going to vote similarly with us? So it would require some coordination in advance saying, if we intend to vote positive on this, are you doing the same vote with us?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, it would go into how would we write this letter? Because I think the way I would support it, also for succession planning, the alternate route makes more sense than having a proxy that, like Director McMillan mentioned, somebody could take our vote and decide to vote a different way. Right? It's much better to keep our vote in-house. So personally, what I'm saying is I would support that letter of support with the wording as is, with an alternate, not necessarily a proxy.
Would a proxy preclude the use of an alternate? Is that?
Yes, it would be.
It's proposed as a replacement, not an either or.
Yeah.
And I think, Charlotte can comment, and of course, Director McMillan as well. My understanding of the origin of the proxy approach is that this is the approach that the San Diego County Water Authority already utilizes successfully. And so that was seen as an effective model because it is already in place in a fairly similar situation. And there were concerns about bringing up to speed someone who isn't usually engaged in Met Board activities. And also one of the changes that's proposed as part of this is a substantial reduction in the notification time with the designation of an alternate. I think it was a 5 working days notification, whereas with the proxy, they've backed that down to, I believe, just 1. Is that correct?
Correct.
Wow.
And that was the only advantage that I could see was you've got someone who's used to going.
And the 1 day, because
Yeah.
5 days in advance,
That's a long
if
time.
I become sick,
Who came up with the 5 days? Right, it's interesting.
probably the author.
Sponsor did, or the author did.
But that could also be a recommendation, you know?
I guess we could also agree to a catch-22 proxy, like we'll be yours if you be ours, but you vote how we want and we'll vote how you want.
And that you negotiated in advance.
Right, yeah.
And one of the concerns that was raised in the discussion by one of the board members, and I don't remember which you might recall, was with a proxy, there's information presented in the board meeting and discussion that can shape a voting decision.
Yeah.
And if you have a proxy, you really have to tell them in advance how you want them to vote, or you have to have very significant trust in that their thinking is going to be very much aligned with yours versus an alternate. So there were some concerns expressed about the ability of a proxy to adapt to new information and
And
discussion.
not every district has the same interest, right?
No,
We had
exactly.
differentiating interest, and I think having an alternate of the same board would align us, right?
Mhm.
That we have the same goals.
Did the proxy discussion come out or decision come out of the Met Ledge Committee discussion? Was that the origin of it?
And it was Director Kurtz who expressed concern, like, how can I be sure that they're going to vote the way that I would have voted?
Yeah,
It's unfortunate that we can't maintain both options, right? How one of our board members can't come, we didn't have the notice, we've coordinated with our proxy. Or no, our board member can go, I've gotten them up to speed, I won't be there that week. You know, I don't see how one is necessarily fitting of the other.
But I think you want consistency.
with Assembly Member Irwin being, you know, in our district or being the author, is this something we can meet with her and discuss?
We can certainly propose that. Yes, and I may suggest that we see what the language is before we.
Yeah,
I would certainly be more comfortable weighing in once we've seen the modified language. And since we don't know the timeline on that, I think it would be better if staff doesn't commit to bringing it on April 2nd.
Point.
We'll bring it on April 2nd if the language is available far enough in advance of the meeting. If not, we'll wait until it is and bring it at a subsequent board meeting.
on the other hand, would it be easier to get ahead of it before they do change it to something that isn't beneficial to us?
That's kind of what I was gonna say.
And that's my take on it.
I think the
have-
answer is, yeah. Sorry, Director Tebow, go ahead.
If you have a strong position or an idea, then that may be something to say, hey, by the way, this is how we feel, if you want to take that into consideration while you're
Or you change it. Yeah.
I think my concern would be, if I understand correctly, you're on the Ledge Committee, right? So if the Met Ledge Committee recommended the change to proxy, it seems unlikely that Assemblymember Irwin would want to entertain an approach that differs from what the Met Ledge Committee recommended, even if our preference is different.
Can we confer with other boards to see how they feel about it?
There has been a lot of conferring.
Go back and look at the Ledge Committee. You'll be able to hear the discussion. There was quite a bit.
I didn't watch that one last week. I watched watched another one. It's on my notes.
Well, the nice thing about being recorded, you could always speed up the,
Yeah.
you know,
And skip through. So that's actually, I think that would be a great suggestion in preparation for further discussions on this, is if the board members are of interest, watch the Met Committee meeting where this was discussed, because I think that has had a huge influence on how the bill is evolving, because they're literally opening the Metropolitan Act. And I would be surprised if an assembly member would be willing to open the Metropolitan Act to make changes in a way that the Metropolitan Ledge Committee is not supportive.
I think that's a very good suggestion, Christine, because that really laid the foundation for
The homework.
conversations.
And then we will bring it back at the appropriate time for further discussion.
Director McMillan.
just have a request.
Yes.
In your matrix, would you also add the priorities 1, 2, and 3?
Yes.
So again, if it's a 1, I know you're working very, very hard on that. And if it's 2, then I just want to see how much effort, you're having to put into some of
Of course. Thank you. I apologize for not including it on this matrix, but definitely in the future.
Yeah, and so I just had a comment on SB 601. So this was talked about in the quality committee,
Yes.
and one of the things that was asserted was that this is a broader than just PFAS. It appears to avoid the MCL process. I just assume that we stick our regulatory compliance manager on this one.
We have indeed sicked her on
Very
it. Yes, it is under analysis here. As you may know, Vice President Quady, Aqua took an opposed position last week. Lots of agencies are concerned about the bill. They're sorting through the complexity of it. There's a lot to it. But no, that's a great suggestion, and we are working through that piece of it with her.
Thank you. I like the table.
Very good.
Good work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Okay, do we have a general counsel's report?
Very briefly, since the last meeting, I've had the opportunity to work with engineering quite a bit. Multiple issues, easement issues, bid issues, insurance issues, change order issues, and claim issues. So I've worked with them on all that. Director Quady, you just mentioned PFAS. Yeah. You recall, Calleguas opted out of that PFAS settlement that is always in the news lately. Just yesterday, I received a communication from the administrator who oversees all of the opt-out provisions, asking for one additional piece of information with respect to Calleguas, our federal water district registration number. I provided it to them. They said, thank you very much. No additional information needed. So it's just confirmation that our opt-out was received, process found to be sufficient, effective, all of that. And then finally, there's also, I also have a quarterly legal summary coming your way. So that'll be emailed out to you directly as we normally do. That's it.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, council. Next up is committee meeting reports.
None this time.
None this time. Board member reports on ancillary duties. First up is Aqua Region 8 Director.
Okay, so I alluded to just shortly, before on March 13th, I attended all the quarterly policy committee meetings, actually just 4 of them. The Aqua updates, the water management, water quality, and energy. And then the second item is they're trying to establish a date on a pre-appointment meeting for the person who will fill in Director Morris's spot on Region 8. And that is, as far as I know right now, it may be happening April 2nd. So that's and that may include people that have filed their papers in.
That's right.
Okay.
Director Quady. Next up is Aqua JPIA.
Okay, I just have one item. I guess I just wanted to thank the Calleguas staff for helping. I got a completed nomination package for the executive board at Aqua JPIA. And I also want to thank the Camarosa, Santa Clarita, United Water, and Los Virgenes boards as well for their support.
Yep, we requested 5 concurring nominations and resolutions, and we received 5 concurring nomination resolutions.
Wow, way ahead of time.
Batting 1,000.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Director Quady. Okay, AWA. All right, the next one, I guess it was my last AWA meeting as the board member. And that was March 6th. United, first thing I have here on notes is United Water District is doing a district overview tour. Dates are coming soon. They wanted to know if Calleguas would be willing to do a district overview tour as well. Finances look positive. There's no official drops of memberships. Some unpaid invoices remain. New member, Vandenberg Village CSD. They approved a 5% COLA increase for staff. April 17th is the water symposium. March 20th is the WaterWise Chevron deference. Let's see what else. And incoming president being installed on the 20th is Suzanne Cooper. Okay. That's all I have for that one. Next one is Fox Canyon GMA.
Director Bacala is not here tonight and Ian is not here tonight, so I think we will forego an update on the GMA.
Metropolitan Water District.
Yes, on March 6th, I attended the Northern Caucus via Zoom. I attended the MWD board and committee meetings on March 9th to the 12th. The voting record is before you there on those 14 items. Only 2 of them I voted differently, and one because I was out of the room, and that's when they approved a resolution for me to take John Morris's place on the Aqua board. And so I was able to get my application in on that. So I was listed as absent. Also, I could not vote on the GM's contract with the city of Buenaventura and Calleguas for wheeling and emergency delivery of state water project water. So I couldn't abstain. They said no vote. So that was different.
I did watch you do that.
Yes. And on March 13th, I went to an event honoring Randy Breckard at Metropolitan San Jacinto Tunnel West Portal. It was raining cats and dogs that day. And then March 14th, the Delta Construction Authority pre-board meeting via Zoom.
Great. Thank you, Director McMillan.
You're welcome.
LAFCO, we have not had a meeting. Ventura County Regional Energy Alliance, they haven't had anything since the last one.
Yeah, you had no report.
VCSDA has a meeting coming up on April 1st, I believe. And that moves us on to list of admin code reimbursable meetings. Director McMillan.
March 7th, it was the Calleguas MWD strategy meeting. March 18th was water issue committee, and March 19th, collab field committee.
Thank you. Director Quady.
Tonight's board meeting.
Oh, and tonight's board meeting.
Yeah. Director Robert.
On the 6th, the AWA board meeting, the 10th, Metropolitan's Engineering and Operations Committee. On the 11th, Metropolitan's Finance and Asset Management Committee. 17th, Fort Wayne City Council meeting, the Fort Wayne Water Agency meeting was canceled. On the 18th, AWA water issues, and tonight's board meeting.
Thank you. So for myself, since the last board meeting, on the 6th AWA Exec Committee, on the 11th, I watched the Metropolitan Board meeting. On the 10th, the Engineering Operations and Tech Committee. Gonna go back and watch the Legislative Committee as well. On the 14th, I attended the Simi Valley Chamber meeting monthly. Yesterday, I had a meeting with our general manager. Great discussion on some updates on housing and things like that. And tonight's board meeting. That moves us on to discussion regarding upcoming meetings to be attended by board members.
I just have a few. I'll be going to Orange County tomorrow. They have quarterly water forums that they put on, and they're quite good. And Devin Dupadier, Metropolitan's new general manager, will be the featured keynote. And then the following week, on the 25th, I'll be going up to Sacramento to join the Delta Construction Legislative Symposium that they're putting on for new legislators. And then on the 28th, the CoLab is having a Circle the Wagons event, which is free.
Great. Thank you. Do you have anything else?
I just wanted to point out a couple of things that are on the upcoming calendar or on the last upcoming calendar. The AWA WaterWise on the 20th tomorrow. They're installing the new board members. Because I think that's sooner than the next board meeting. And the 21st is the Lost Virgins Beyond the Surface event.
Yeah.
Really excited for that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, do we have any requests for future agenda items? Information items, coalition letter
Oh,
to,
sorry, should we, do we need to say the earlier aqua voting thing?
I mean, we can, when the time is right, we will bring to the board for discussion the votes that the Aqua designated representative will have to make in terms of officers and Region 8.
It's how everybody supports. I think.
okay,
Yeah, on the correspondence, this is a coalition support letter about that water theft bill that Charlotte spoke about earlier at the meeting.
we have a need for full session.
No.
All right, thank you, everybody. And with that, we have a new record, under an hour.